we are going to be more consistent with this podcast. We did one last week and we're doing this one again. With me, my regular co-hosts, the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Gutierrez. How are you doing, man? Wait, 1 second. I forgot. The future of real estate, the soon-to-be real estate tycoon. How you doing, man?
Doing great, brother. Doing great. Just grinding it out. You know how it is.
And last but not least, Jenish Thanki, the future of Intel, the guy who's gonna take over it completely and revitalize the company. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. But one thing I do want to say is I want some variety, bro. Like change up the introductions every week. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so what do I do? Like I don't know what else to say.
I don't know, man. Just change it up, add some spice to it. You know what I mean?
Okay. I'll add some more lines. I'll think of some
Don't bother Jenish, bro. Just listen to him, okay? You don't want to make him angry here.
All right, man. All right.
All right. How was the week for you guys? What happened? Anything significant? Anything I should be aware of?
Oh, I don't know if you should be aware, but I got a few pretty warm leads in industrial, so that's pretty cool. Oh, dude, went to the Grand Prix. That was freaking dope. Saw some Formula D drifters, which was probably the best. Oh, so those two cool things. Okay, so first off, so they have, I don't know what it's called. So there's Formula One, right, with the, like extremely fast race cars, and then you have like the Lambos, the Ferraris, you have the C8 Corvette. And what surprised me is that the Corvette, it's the cheapest model there. It actually destroyed every single other supercar. So it destroyed the Lambos, it destroyed the Ferraris, and it completely destroyed the McLaren. And so it was just wild that the cheapest, I don't want to say cheap, but the lowest end of the supercars was actually the best. And then for the Formula D, the drifters, there was a 17-year-old driving in the Grand Prix. So it's just bizarre to think, right? It's just crazy because he got his license at 16, and all of a sudden he's now a Formula D drifter in the Grand Prix.
Impressive. That is impressive.
That was awesome.
What about you, Jenish?
Well, mine is way less exciting. Honestly, just been doing some projects, computer science related projects, and just just chilling, doing work.
That's good, man. Keep hustling.
What about you, Ibrahim? I know you went somewhere, Ibrahim.
Yeah, no, I went to DC over the weekend. I'm still like super tired, but trying my best to overcome the fatigue. But yeah, no, I went to DC. One of my religious organizations, there's this thing called Shura where we kind of deliberate over like how to spend money for the budget and like, just like different events to plan. It's like a national thing. And so I was elected to represent, one of the people who kind of represented LA. And like, it's kind of like a legislative body. Like, we did MUN together, Model United Nations. It's kind of similar to that, where you just sit in a room and just like talk about ideas and like, but this actually like matters. Like you actually pass actual legislation. But yeah, so it was a cool experience. The most, it was a sad thing. So I went at the end of my trip. It was only 48 hours, but I went around the DC area and I saw those white flags that represented the death of all the Americans for COVID. So it was a sad thing. It was like a live tracker. It said, when I went there, it was about 687,000 people, but there were so many like white flags near the National Mall. So this is a sobering moment. But yeah, no, other than that, trip went well. Yeah, let's dive right in though. Enough small talk. Enough small talk. The typical podcast small talk. But okay. So Evergrande, I think a lot of we put up content on our Instagram account and TikTok account about this. So we've covered this a lot. Matt, why don't you just start us off with it and give us this whole spiel?
For sure. So first off, let's talk about Evergrande, right? So Evergrande is the second largest development firm in China. So they're an investment firm. The interesting thing about Evergrande is that they're not only in development, they're not only in the multifamily construction.
Wait, one second. I thought they were a real estate developer. They're a real estate developer, and they're the biggest in China, right?
Yeah, no, the second largest.
The second. So they're not
investment. They're the second largest.
Okay, good. So they're just a real estate developers, and that's what primarily they do. They don't invest.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the interesting thing is that a lot of the developments, they turn into investments. And so I guess the term could be used interchangeably. But in this term, I'll use investment because not only are they in real estate market, but they also run a sports team in China. They run amusement parks. They run automotive industry, right? So they're in every industry. And so they're kind of like, they're one of the largest, for sure, firms in China. And, China is arguably the largest economy in the world right now, right? The way e-commerce is going, the way their manufacturing is. And just, there's over 1 billion people at work in China, right? So their economy is constantly flowing and it's constantly in a cyclical motion. So what Evergrande actually did is, so obviously they're in development, right? And so what happens is you go ahead and you make one development, and this is how a lot of investors and a lot of real estate people actually make their money. So they'll go ahead and they'll dive into an investment and say that say the investment's worth $2 million, but you only put in 200,000 and the bank puts in, whatever the rest of the money, right? 1.8 million. So now you have leverage in that investment, right? And so what Evergrande went ahead and did is they leveraged all of that cash. They went ahead and put that leveraging money into another property, right? And then so forth and so on. And so now they're at an exponential amount of money where they owe the government of China $300 billion. And so, $300 billion, sure, a lot of people will say it's a drop in the bucket for a lot of debt consolidators and a lot of, real estate investment trusts. But the reality is $300 billion is still a lot of money. It's enough money to affect the economy on a global scale, right? Because so what happens is when a company owes the government a load of money, in taxes, what happens is a debt consolidator has to come in. And in this case, many debt consolidators have to come in. They have to take on that debt and then they repurpose it. Okay. And so what that repurposing does is it increases the interest rate to make, so the American people or, the people of China, whatever, they go ahead and they pay for that debt, right? So those interest rates will therein, pay for that debt. And what happens there is if more money is going into the government, more bonds will go up. And so now the interest rate in bonds will increase, and that becomes a more sturdy security than it is right now. And so that's kind of what's going on. And, it's unfortunate, I guess, because our economy is going in such a thriving manner. It doesn't seem like, I don't believe it's going to happen for long, but this is definitely going to expedite the decline. Fortunately, the US stock market actually started thriving a few days after the Evergrande drop. And so it seems like people don't want it to affect us. And so, as everyone knows, the people are in control of the stock market. But yeah, go ahead, Ibrahim.
So just to summarize, Evergrande is one of the biggest real estate development companies in China. One of the reasons why, it came into the news was last week they missed, their debt payments to, offshore bondholders, and they owed about $83 billion to foreign investors, and they missed that payment. So now they have 30 more days to come up with that money, or they'll default on a lot of it. And so people, the way like China works, a lot of companies, they're just borrow incessantly, and they don't just borrow, they like, I guess you could use the word abuse. They like abuse borrowing money to finance or just like to operate essentially as a company. And I don't know if you know this, guys, but the way real estate works there is people buy stuff before it's built. Like in the US, that's not a common practice. In the US, like in China, a lot of people are buying houses before they're built. And that's why there were some Chinese people protesting against Evergrande, because they're scared that they won't be able to build out the house that they already paid for, right?
Right. So even crazier. So you're 100% right, dude. So in China, people will buy property before the property is even built. Not only that, their income to house buying ratio is 1 to 20, which is exponentially larger than the US is, right? And so here people, the general rule of thumb is that your income should be, your house should be 20% of your income per month. So that's how much you should be paying. But in China, they're on the opposite ratio. So if you're making 1, you're buying a house that's worth 20. And so it's just insane how their societal norms are different than ours, and that, sure, like our generation, the millennial generation, we're buying less houses. Gen Z, we're buying less houses. We're being less secure in that manner, but they're still on that norm. And so it's increasingly, getting crazier.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the Chinese government is not currently interfering. What they want to do is they want to discourage a lot of big companies in China from like borrowing incessantly, as I mentioned. And so what they're doing is they're kind of just like letting the situation go, and they're saying that Evergrande has enough capital to pay back those investors. But people are scared. They're scared that if China just lets Evergrande go bankrupt, that it might have repercussions, because real estate there is 25% of the economy. And so if that industry completely goes down, some people were saying it's going to be like the Lehman Brother crisis that happened right back in 2009. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Evergrande has enough. I don't think this will be like a global financial crisis like other people do think. I think China will eventually step in and do something, because China is pretty good when it comes to managing financial crises, because they're a communist country. They pretty much run the entire banking system in China. Like there is no banking system. China runs the banking industry.
There's no private banking.
Yeah, so like it's all state-owned companies, and they run their own bottom lines and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see this all happen. But did you guys hear about the power outage that's happening in China now? The supply chain is being increasingly pressured, and so there's
for sure.
Yeah,
it's affecting manufacturing, it's affecting the whole supply chain, e-commerce down to our ports.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with this recent story because this just broke like right before we jumped on the podcast. But apparently there's been like increasing power outages in China, and it's like stressing their supply chains, Tesla production. It's affecting Apple production and stuff like that. So we're already in a supply chain crisis, and it's just going to keep on getting worse. But okay. So quick question though. Evergrande, do you think it's going to become a global the doom of the whole financial empire, like people are saying? You think it's going to happen, or just like a short-term news that everybody's just jumping on the bandwagon and getting worried for no reason?
Honestly, I think they'll be fine. I think China has to bail them out. So just a quick clarification though. Is Evergrande state-owned by China, or is it a private company?
Privately owned.
Privately owned. All right. So
Yeah.
So that's why. Okay, I see.
Well, I mean, it's arguable, right? Because it's China, and China, inherently runs.
Well, yeah, I
everything, right?
just looked it up though, because I was thinking like, oh, is all state-owned companies in China owned by the government, or like, is it all owned by the government? And there are private companies in China as well, even though the government does have major influence over them. There are still privately owned companies.
Yeah, so Evergrande is a privately owned company, but any company that's privately owned in China, the Chinese Communist Party still has a very big like influence over them. So
Right, yeah.
I mean, recently, go ahead.
But I think, I mean, the U.S. government, I mean, you can't really compare the U.S. and Chinese government, but we've seen the U.S. government bail out huge companies in the U.S., which would have had massive economic impacts to our economy. So I'm sure the Chinese government will assist them, because I mean, China would have a huge disaster, especially in their real estate market, if they don't build them out.
So what I think is going to happen, so there's three options, right? So China bails them out, China postpones their tax due date, or, China lets them fall. Okay, obviously China letting them fall will be the probably most disastrous. China bailing them out will also affect the economy on a massive scale. But the reason that a lot of these guys are saying that's extremely unlikely that China will bail them out is because of how long Evergrande's been postponing this. So Evergrande's been postponing this for over a year, 2 years, right? And so that's like extremely concerning, if billions and billions of dollars are on the line, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of healthcare, in terms of, education, like that's a lot of money that's just building up and it's being in debt. So real quick, so how Ibrahim, you're talking about how a lot of companies abuse the power of borrowing and having debt, right? So interestingly enough, how a lot of these companies like, Amazon, notably, they pay zero taxes, right? Do you know why that is?
Because they use offshore banking to, like avoid a lot of taxes, and like they just use like financial maneuvering to get around like the income tax that they have to pay. And also they show negative income. They like show that
that's the
no
kicker.
income. Yeah.
They have negative income, but that negative income comes from them borrowing money and them having depreciable assets, right? And so that's the interesting thing, right? So a lot of these companies, you can now be one of the largest companies worth trillions of dollars, but pay zero taxes because you're negative income, because you're paying, employees, you're paying for your miscellaneous, you're paying for, your machinery, you're paying for whatever it may be. And so that's just the interesting thing to me, that the zero taxes comes from the negative income.
Yeah, for some viewers watching, they're saying, well, a lot of companies borrow money, but keep in mind, Evergrande is the most indebted real estate developing company in the world. They're among one of the most indebted companies in the world. So it's not just like they're doing their normal borrowing that a lot of companies do to, get through, like you were talking about. It's
No, so okay, so exactly. Okay, let me break it down real quick. So exactly why Evergrande is so in debt is because, like I was saying before, right? They're leveraging money that was there, but what happens when the money isn't there, right? So their assets were obviously appreciating because the economy was going well and the government, not the government, but the economy is going well and their assets were increasing in net price, right? But what happens when your assets start to depreciate? Because that's how the economy goes. The economy's cyclical. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And so what happens is once it starts depreciating, that means the leverage is now decreasing. In fact, in some cases, it can now go into the negative barrier. And so that's exactly what happened with Evergrande. They appraised their assets at an extremely high appreciation price. And in reality, they're now down because of the depreciation of how the economy works.
So, right. And I just, I don't like hypotheticals, but I want to ask you guys, what do you think would happen if Evergrande falls? What economic impacts would it be on China or maybe even the global economy as a whole?
So yeah, I think what's going to happen is if Evergrande does fold, and that money doesn't go to the government, I think, like I said, debt consolidators are going to come in, and I don't think they're just going to be from China. I think they're going to be on a global scale, from South America to Europe to the North Americans, and that's going to inherently affect how our economy is run. And the way our economy is run, that differs. So that portion differs per country, and so it just varies, I think, per country. The interesting thing is, I think the reason our economy bounced so fast back up during COVID is because how fast information moves these days. And so that's the reason I don't think it's going to be another 2009 situation, because people are like cohesive right now. People like, the whole AMC jump, the whole GameStop jump, that's because information gets around the world so quickly. And so if people understand that it's not such a big deal, and if we just keep our money in the stock market, then no repercussions are really going to happen. Sure, there's going to be higher bond rates, but I'm not investing in bonds. That's okay, right? So there's it's a whole debacle between like the age of information. And honestly, it's going to have some repercussions on like the older generations because they're in bonds and, they have like high appreciating assets. But other than that, I don't think it's going to be like a whole downturn.
Yeah, so I think Evergrande is not going to go bankrupt. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, how it'll affect America is basically the foreign investors that had a lot of the debt, or that financed a lot of the debt that Evergrande had. I think it was about $83 billion. And a lot of those investors are American, so they'll be negatively, obviously, affected by that. And so I don't think, like, a reporter asked a question to Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and he said that Evergrande's crisis is particular to China. And so I agree with him that it's not going to massively upend the American economy, but it's definitely going to have an impact on China, because China is in a housing bubble essentially now. If Evergrande fails and like they're not able to build out all the homes that people already paid for, so it's a mess. But I think it's a larger question though about China and how their economy is run, and because they're suppressing a lot of these protests, a lot of these home buyers who were protesting against Evergrande, they're suppressing their gatherings. The police, the authorities there are making sure that the sentiment amongst people doesn't rise against the Communist Party, because if they see more and more people turn against Evergrande, then they'll have to step in and bail them out, because the most important thing for them is to make sure that everyone in China doesn't turn against the party. And even if they do, they try their best to put away upheavals or like small rebellions. But did you guys know that nobody? So I was talking to my friend who was from China at USC, and he was just telling me about how China works, and it's fascinating that nobody in China votes. Nobody has any political power. How it works is it's a party system. There's government schools where you get trained to become a party official, and amongst the party, the Communist Party, then they make that decision to elect people, and who makes those decisions. So nobody there votes. Nobody has that concept of voting there. And so the only way they can express themselves is through these protests, which the Chinese government is now starting to crack into. But I don't think China is going to survive in the next 50, 60 years. People talk about how China's been doing well economically. I honestly think that politically, you can't deprive people of basic political human rights, even if they're not familiar with them because they've never had them. I think I think we're going to see an upheaval coming up, not in the short term, not in like the next 10, 20 years, but down the road, I do see China falling. And that's just my personal opinion. What do you guys think about that? Like, do you think China is going to be able to sustain itself as one of the most leading economies and like global powers? Like, because it's technically China and the US basically in competition right now. And China's doing pretty damn well, right? But do you think they're going to continue on this path based on those communist principles? I mean, they're kind of capitalist / communist. They're not entirely communist. They use a lot of capitalism, like borrowing money and like using financing, international financing. That's like a very typical corporate American company. But do you guys see China sustaining itself?
I'll
Yeah,
let you
for
go
sure.
first, Matt.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, for sure. I think so I think as long as the Communist Party stays in play, China will continue to prosper. I don't think people are so offended in China about like the labor rates, and I think as long as the labor rates are so low, then the economy will continue to increase.
What do you
and
mean by
increase.
labor rates? First, to clarify. So, what do you mean by labor rates? Like,
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
mean
for
like
sure.
the wages of like people who work at different?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? So, I mean, it's no secret that China, not only in China, but, the Middle East and so on and so forth, South America, the labor rates are exponentially low, like extremely low. And so that's why we all have our products coming from China, coming from Pakistan, coming from, Brazil. And that's the reason, because labor is so cheap, then it's so easy to create manufacturing buildings and so easy to create and nonetheless, they have the population, right? So they have a ton of people having no choice but to work under sad conditions, So they have to work under these depriving conditions in order to get by in life. But it's like if the Communist Party just stays there, nothing will change because people are just kind of satisfied with, just kind of getting by and living. And there's no issue with that. But it's unfortunate when they have no choice but to live under those scrutiny.
So I think this is like the reason that Ibrahim was saying that people are gonna uphill and like rebel against these conditions that they're going through. But what I'm interested in is I want to see what's gonna happen when the people who are in power right now are gonna die. Like what's gonna happen after they die? I mean, of course they might have like successors who have power, but I want to see what those successors do. Will they have like the same mentality as the people that are in power right now, who want to keep that communist government in check, or are they going to become more progressive, more liberal, maybe down the line?
Yeah.
So I think, go ahead.
So there's a lot of infighting amongst the Chinese Communist Party. It's not so President Xi, who's the president of China, the most powerful man in China, arguably one of the most powerful people in the world. He is basically going to be president for the rest of his life, essentially, and he's been one of the most consequential presidents in Chinese history. It's he's not unpopular in China. He's very popular because he's like brought China, made it a stronghold, a reckon to be dealt with. So it is a good question, but it's a question that I don't know the answer to, because I don't know what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years down the road. I don't think, like I said, I don't see China sustaining itself as a global power in the next 40, 50 years, but I will give them credit that they always think long term. All their strategy and their plans, they don't think in 5, 10-year intervals. They're thinking in 20, 30-year intervals, and that strategy might help them sustain itself. I don't think it will, just because of like a fundamental political question. I don't think you can deprive people of all those political rights and not see them rebelling. I think that's kind of like my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying. But I think like an interesting aspect though is one of the pursuits of life is power, right? Just human nature. And I think that if there's a chain of command already in place, and people are already there to have that power, and they already do have power now, people get more power hungry, and people don't want that power to go away unless you genuinely have like a kind heart and you have like that soul mentality for the people. But other than that, I don't think that things are going to change, because people do like President Xi, right? I've never heard like some negative thoughts coming from the actual Chinese people. I have Chinese friends that came from China on for school, and they are all saying that people like him there. Like there's no issue really. Sure, that the gap
Uh,
is ridiculous, but
yeah, man. You want to know why you never heard anything negative
why is
about
that?
the president? Because if you say anything negative, you're pretty much dead.
You're dead.
That's actually true, though.
There's lots, yeah. So there's a lot of censorship. I mean, you're
I've
not gonna like.
heard I've heard that. I don't know if they actually go and
So
kill
no,
you.
so
So
he-
no, they don't. I mean, I don't know what they kill you, but people go missing. A lot of people go missing in China. I'm not even. This is not even a joke. I'm actually like legit.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
this
so
it is.
I've asked my buddy. He moved like from China to here, and like his family's pretty like pretty up there. And he just said that he straight up told me that it's not as like absurd as it seems. Stuff like that happens, and censorship's unreal, but it's not like you'll just go missing. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean,
So wait,
I
your friend is like this wealthy guy studying in the
not
U.S.
wealthy, not wealthy, right? But
I
he's
mean, if you're
like
studying
he's
in the
comfortable. They're
U.S.
comfortable,
as an international student, you have to be okay. He's pretty up there. He is very well to do. So he's probably not familiar with the
Very well
struggles
to
of.
do.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be well to do.
He's comfortable. He's not like
Yeah,
some
my
of the
point
guys
is
will come here and buy McLarens and
no,
not even
I,
have a
okay, but
second
that's
thought.
like super well. I get your point. All I'm saying is like he's not probably familiar with the struggles of the working class people and what they probably go through, right? Just because he's in that position, I'm not criticizing him for being in that position of privilege. I'm just saying, like people in China who are actually struggling, they don't even have the time to consider about like what President Xi is doing, especially because they don't have any rights. Like they like political efficacy there is probably not a thing. I mean, in regards to your question, my friend, so the friend I was talking about earlier, he's not a big fan of Xi, but he said that people are just not politically active there, like because they have no rights. And so if they see China like, doing their economy doing well for the most part and like having like political power internationally, that's all like they really care about. But also don't forget, China's committing a mass genocide of the Uyghur Muslims. They're putting hundreds of thousands of these people in intermittent camps, and it's been going on for such a long time. And they, they're like the modern day Nazis. That's how they're governing China. But yeah, I am not a big fan of the government, and I don't see like I don't this, just because of the things that they do, especially to the Uyghur Muslims and all the other strategies. I just don't. I just don't. I question like I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into this, but I just don't see them surviving like that for the next 40, 50 years.
So like what I think is interesting is, as Matt was saying earlier, like it's a globalized age, right? We live in a age where information is passed on so easily. And the fact that the Chinese government is still able to censor a billion people is insane to me. And I want to know what's their limit. Like, are they gonna? It's kind of mind-boggling to see how they can censor at that scale and at that level. And I want to see if there's going to be any cracks in the future, because the internet's getting crazier, blockchain's getting crazier. So I want to see if there's going to be any cracks later on where the Chinese people can pass information without the government knowing, and that would be a big breakthrough in my opinion.
Well, blockchain's already a crack, right? Like that's already happening in China where people are defying what's going on over there, and
Exactly,
China already exactly.
anonymity. Yeah, right.
And so it's just as you said, it's interesting how things are evolving and how blockchain is going to continue to evolve, and things are going to become more and more anonymous unless we go ahead and allow the governments to know what we're doing. But yeah, I think that things will be slowly become more and more normalized as technology continues to advance. I don't think they're really communist. They're obviously not a completely capitalist country, right? But I think things will continue to become less and less stringent.
But the opposite's been happening. As technology is evolving, China's becoming the opposite in terms of like how much access to information the Chinese people have. Because like for instance, they banned all sorts of crypto in China. I mean, they've already obviously been cracking down on crypto mining, and before they banned Bitcoin, but now like you can't be on an exchange, a public crypto exchange, and be in China. Like you can't buy or
Yeah,
sell.
but where's majority of money going from crypto? It's from China, right? So people are
Majority?
still.
I don't think that's
It's like a
true.
high amount, dude.
It is a
Like
high amount for sure. No,
it's
no,
like
it is for sure. But I don't.
let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, I don't know the specific amount there. But I'm saying my point is like China, like so they're cracking down on all the big companies because they're scared that a lot of the big companies like ByteDance and Alibaba in China, they have a lot of economic power, and because CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they're wary of anything that challenges them. They're cracking down on all these big companies and all these big billionaires, and they're using, which is true. There's a lot of income inequality in China, but they're using that as a justifier for their crackdown on all these companies and all these billionaires, which, there is some truth to the income inequality, but they're using that as a justification for their increasing crackdown and more, abuse of the privacy of individual Chinese people.
Yeah, I mean, just conclude everything, I guess. I think censorship is just going to be a huge deal in the future, and like, it's just I don't see how you can censor like a billion people in an age where information is passed around so easily and is available everywhere. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Real quick, so I was wrong. You're right, Ibrahim. I've seen in a previous article and this article as well from CNBC that majority in the continent is Asia. I just assumed that it was China because of their vast population, but it's actually, interestingly enough, Vietnam. Vietnam uses cryptocurrency the most, and then you go on to Pakistan.
So of all the countries in the world, no, but
Of
I'm
all the
talking
countries.
about the exchanges, like like who's like, so for instance, like who's buying and selling most on these exchanges, not actually using crypto, because I know, Pakistan, Vietnam, and all these other Asian countries, they use a lot of like, they actually fundamentally use like Bitcoin and other stuff. I was just speaking about exchanges and like who has a lot of investments or like have crypto wallets and like say, like all the different exchanges that are out there. Yeah, but I mean, moving on, I think you wanted to touch on NFTs and how a lot of them are.
Yeah, it's just real quick. So I thought it was very interesting because the whole idea of NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, I think it's an extremely interesting concept, and it's extremely like how crypto is, right? It's extremely hard to grasp, right? You have these people are calling them JPEGs. They're not JPEGs necessarily, right? But it's like they are. It's a either a short excerpt of a moving video, or it's an actual photo, and people are buying the rights to this photo or the JPEG, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's going for exponential amount of money. It's ridiculous. Like things are going for $60,000, $100,000, high six-figure range, and you can never like physically touch it, So I forgot who actually. Oh, Gary V. So Gary V touched on this topic, and he said, because somebody said the exact same thing I'm saying, like it doesn't make sense how people are buying things $60,000, six figures, for something they're never going to be able to actually touch. And Gary Vee said, okay, so what about art, right? Like art is all relative. Why are people paying $1.5 million for, a scribble on a piece of canvas? And the guy goes, well, that is true. And it is true, right? Art is all relative, and people continuously find new ways to create art. That's like one of the purposes of life, to create art and create like some type of meaning in this physical world. And contradictory, we have NFTs that aren't physical, and yet people are still buying them. And so I thought it was a trip, but we are now seeing exponential declines, and I don't know if it's going to be like the crypto market where there's a lot of highs and lows, and you shouldn't really worry because there's going to be like a natural incline. I don't feel like it's going to be like a blockchain like crypto market, but it's just interesting because we're now down 67% on average for each NFT. So if somebody bought an NFT for $100,000, it's now worth 33,000. So they lost $67,000. And so that's just, insane to me how things that are not even real are dropping in value by 2/3, which is, it's insane. What do you guys think about that?
What I think about NFTs is I really like the concept. It's cool. And the only problem is there's nothing about it that's limited. That's what my problem. The thing is, you can keep making NFTs. There's no like cap. You can keep making NFTs. You'll get someone else making new NFT, and all the price. I mean, the price is subjective, anyways, right? People assign the prices to it. Like, oh, this looks really beautiful. The thing, that's why I think like it's just that's like the fundamental flaw with it. There's nothing about it that's exclusive or limited. It's just, I can make an NFT right now, and then someone else can make an NFT that looks exactly the same and maybe change a little bit of it, and it's like a new NFT, right? So I mean, I just feel like there's nothing about it that's limited or exclusive, so that it retains its value. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So here's my opinion on NFTs. So just like any asset, people didn't know what NFTs were before 2021 for the most part. They didn't know. And as NFTs became popular. Matt, you said Gary Vee's touched upon this topic. Gary Vee, this is all he talks about. He talks about this is all he does. He doesn't just touch upon this issue. He's obsessed with NFTs, and how he makes those videos about. But yeah, no. So listen, I believe in NFTs because obviously a lot of the most. I mean, um, almost yeah. So NFTs are entirely run by the Ethereum, right, Jenish? They're backed or run on the Ethereum network.
Yeah, Ethereum network, yes.
Yeah. I have a bias in this obviously because I'm an Ethereum investor, long-term Ethereum investor. But in my opinion, just like any asset, it gets popular. People jump on the bandwagon. They start buying all sorts of stuff, and the prices go through the roof. And they have this FOMO, fear of missing out. Typical market cycle. And then boom, when it loses in popularity, people are like, "Oh, what did I actually buy? Like, did I actually just buy a picture of my desk that I could have just taken a photo of? Like, what did I actually buy? What is this art?" And then there's like this reality check that happens and the value goes down. But NFTs in general are here to stay. They are probably like they are gonna have those market cycles that Bitcoin has. Like those like goes up, it goes down. But again, the NFT market as a whole, I think, was very speculative this year, especially because a lot of people were just hearing about NFTs, and people were trying to figure out what it is and just buying anything that they hope to turn into gold, right? It's like kind of been like this. It's the story of humans, and humans, whenever they find something that's valuable, they all jump on the bandwagon, right? And then it's all about scarcity of resources and stuff like that. So NFTs, the system, the idea is very cool. It's here to stay. But as a whole market, it's going to have cycles, ups and downs. I guess it's having a bad cycle right now. I don't keep up to date with the NFT market. What I do keep to update is the Ethereum market and the crypto market, which is way more fascinating in my opinion. And it's just like one of the plethora of ways Ethereum is being used. When people say like crypto is not being used, I was having this debate with my friend in DC, and he was saying, tell me one thing that crypto does. Like, what is crypto? Crypto doesn't exist. It's like this thing that, those typical like arguments against crypto. But I was telling him how the Ethereum network essentially runs the entire NFT market, and it's like a practical thing that millions of people are using to buy and sell items. And it's just one of the many applications that Ethereum can be used for. But anyways, my point is NFTs, they're here to stay, but we're gonna see them go up and down as a whole. Have you guys bought any NFTs? Because I have not bought any.
No, I'm more pessimistic about NFTs, to be honest. I don't know if they're here to stay.
Oh,
Like,
why?
I mean,
Why are you pessimistic? It's just digital.
I
The
don't
way
I
I think
don't I
about
don't
NFTs is digital art. That's how I think about it, essentially.
no, that's the premise behind it. But the thing about art is limited. That's the thing. Art is like do you understand why when an artist dies, the price of their paintings go up? Because that artist is not going to make any
Right.
more paintings anymore, right? NFTs, you like it, there's nothing about it that's limited. I can make NFTs, you can make NFTs, everybody can just make NFTs. And I don't know, I don't see like as same thing as a art in that regards, if that makes sense.
Well, but if a person is primarily an NFT creator and they die, they technically can't make any more NFTs either with that premise. Isn't that right? I mean, they can't make any more
No,
NFTs.
no, that's correct. That's correct. But the thing about NFTs is there's no regulation, right? So let's say like, well, I guess in that regards you're right, but I mean I have yet to see any NFT artists, you know what I mean, like that are regarded as like, oh, there's NFT artists, or you know
Well,
what
the
I mean?
first NFT that was sold, the highest was $68 million. You remember that
Yeah.
NFT? The
Yeah,
68
yeah.
million.
It was a collage of paintings from a painter, right? If I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
exactly. Yeah.
Right, right,
It's a
right.
really cool piece. I think it's I don't know. I disagree with you in that. I think it's just digital art that has value. Like art, it just makes sense. It's just like makes sense. The next step in our world is digital art as we value become a more digital world, become more globalized in that way. I think it's just a natural step that NFTs are gonna replace. I don't think they'll completely replace modern day art because rich people are still gonna want their big, large paintings in their houses. They ain't gonna want NFTs. They're still gonna want their Picassos and their Van Goghs. There's like those original paintings, but NFTs I think they will they are here to stay for the most part in my opinion.
Well, before we move on, let's just because I kind of want to wrap this up now. I think it's interesting that Jenish said that art is kind of like based on the premise of the person that's actually creating the art. And I don't know if an NFT can have that. I don't think they can because I think I kind of agree with Jenish in this way. I also agree with you, Ibrahim, but I have like I'm very neutral about this because I think that art like naturally is based on the person. Like if you have, as you said, like a Van Gogh or a Picasso, like there's some prestige to that. But if you have something that's just on your laptop or on a hard drive, it's like, where's the prestige? It's in your files. At least with crypto, like sure, crypto we can't see and we can't actually feel it, but it holds value. Like we can actually go ahead and go buy things with it. You know what I mean? Like we can actually buy real things with that currency. So it's a little different in that regard. But I mean, unless you guys want to touch on it more, I think we should.
No, I don't really want to touch on it. I just want to say at the end of the day, I feel like it's whatever people are gonna regard or attribute the artistic value to. If they attribute it to, digital tokens online, then I mean NFTs are gonna be huge.
Right, of course. All right,
All
lastly.
right. So last topic I want to cover is recently TikTok has reached 1 billion active monthly users, which is pretty crazy. That's like 1/7 of the world on TikTok every month. First of all, you guys, just your general reactions. Do you guys think that it's expected that this many people are on TikTok, or are you guys kind of surprised?
I'm not surprised at all. Well, TikTok is, so Ibrahim will tell you right now, but just to give you what he's going to say, ahead of time, YouTube. So there's more TikTok users now than there are YouTube users, right? And I think the interesting thing about that is YouTube is very like finite, like.
Wait, let me cut you off real quick.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the users. I think the watch time.
Yeah.
Clarify.
Yeah,
Watch
there was
time.
a new study that was done. I saw that again. I did
go ahead.
not. So there's a new CNN headline that said that TikTok has more people are spending. So people are spending more time on TikTok than on YouTube. I think it wasn't like a yearly thing. It was just like this 1 month that people spend more time. But the point is, TikTok is rising in popularity, and more people are on TikTok constantly. It's becoming an addiction almost. But go ahead.
For sure. Thanks for the clarification. I was confused there. But I think the interesting thing is like YouTube is very like honed into what you like and like your kind of preferences. But on TikTok, the difference is that there's like, the For You page, right? And with the For You page is like, sure, it's stuff that you like, but it's also stuff that's just bizarre. And it's just like, what am I watching right now, right? And I think people like that randomness of what's going to be on their feed rather than if you're subscribed to David Dobrik, Nelk Boys, Graham Stephan, you're only going to be getting their videos on your YouTube channel, right? Because, they're posting every week. And the difference is like, sure, you can go ahead and subscribe to things on TikTok, but for the most part, like I don't subscribe to anybody. I just go on like the For You page. I just see random things. And that's the appeal of it. You not only see funny things, you'll see things that are actually like educational. And then you'll see things that, sometimes informative. And it's just interesting that you'll see all kinds of things and all kinds of people, creating a presence for themselves on here. It's not only people that, are just hot. Like, of course, there's hot people that are like have a presence on TikTok, but random people that think some conspiracy theories are interesting or they think some screensavers are like the next big thing for you. And so all of a sudden these nobodies are creating a presence and they're reaping the reward from it, which is pretty inspirational.
So just one thing I want to say is whoever I think what TikTok got perfect is their algorithm for the recommended page, like what's on your explore page, I guess, on TikTok, right? I think whoever made that algorithm should get like a bonus or get like part of the company or something because that algorithm is insane. Like it's literally like a lot of things that I always hear my friends say this is whatever they're into, that's usually what pops up on their page. I mean, obviously there's random things sometimes, but it's always what your like what your general interests are that pop up on that explore page. So whoever as a computer science major, I always think about like how these algorithms are written and what code they use, and whoever developed that algorithm is pretty ingenious.
So I looked up the study that I was referring to. Apparently, I got a little bit wrong. It's Android users. So amongst Android users, strictly about Android users, so TikTok overtook YouTube in terms of average watch time amongst Android users like me. People who use.
All right, bro. Let's change
Bro,
topic.
come on,
Change
don't
topic.
tell the people that you're an Android user. It's enough that like you're our friend and you're an Android user, but like don't gotta tell everybody. You know what I mean?
being an Android user in 2021 is like having a scar on your face. It's like people treat you like you are some sort of a like
It's
endangered servant.
depressing.
Like it's like yeah, it's weird, man. I don't understand.
I don't
I
even
don't
want to talk about this
understand the
topic anymore.
no, but okay, no, but seriously though, TikTok. So, well, my opinion, it's so I didn't really use TikTok until recently, and I still don't use it that much. But it's just like what they revolutionized, not revolutionized, what they made mainstream is the popularity of extremely short videos, like 10 to 15 seconds. And because they're so short, every time you watch one, you're like, oh, it's just another short video. Boom. Oh, and it's another. And then it turns out it's like 3 a.m. in the morning and you have assignment due in the morning and you still haven't started it. It's like time just flies there. And it's, I am surprised about TikTok's, continued popularity because I thought Instagram Reels were gonna replace or take over TikTok's market, but turns out people are still attracted and still on TikTok. Because I thought Mark Zuckerberg, like he does, he always copies other people, and like when he copied TikTok's model of those short reels, I thought TikTok was gonna lose users and more people were gonna flock to Instagram since they already use it, but it hasn't happened yet. TikTok is still very, very, very popular. People were saying it's gonna be like Vine, right? Like it becomes popular and then just goes away. I don't think TikTok's dying because the company's done such a good job in marketing the company and they've associated themselves with all the creators on the app so intrinsically and like so it's so connected together that I don't yeah, I think TikTok's gonna continue to succeed, unfortunately. Don't think it's a good thing.
Just a quick point, by the way. Everybody in my school, all my professors always said that plagiarism is bad, but I mean, I'm seeing it in the real world. Like Mark Zuckerberg is actually the greatest copycat of all time. This dude just copied Snapchat and now TikTok. It's insane.
And he bought Facebook so he didn't have to copy, their platform.
Well, he invented Facebook.
Oh, sorry, he invented Facebook, but he bought Instagram, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
acquired Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world and we're all just
Oh, but I don't think I just lastly, just to clear up, I don't think that TikTok is gonna die anytime like Vine. I think TikTok has some things that are just intrinsically better than Vine in terms of their algorithm, in terms of how their content is because it's not only like 7-second clips like Vine, you also get like minute clips, so there's a more variation in the content, and it's not all about just funny videos. There could be like informative videos or traveling videos like Matt sends me. So there's a lot of variety in the content as well.
and I think that's the one of the other keys to their success. They didn't just become a dancing app. Like obviously they became popular because a lot of people were dancing and dancing trends were going on, and that still happens. But now a lot of people use TikTok for different reasons. Like one of my uncles gets his stock news from TikTok, like his business news, all from TikTok users. And like there's so many different niche like interest groups, and it's kind of like people like, feel like a part of a community on TikTok. It's really weird. And we always get so many people commenting on our posts on TikTok. It's kind of weird how people just
It's
randomly
cool. It's not weird, right? It's a cool thing that people are so interconnected.
it is a little bizarre to me though because I don't understand. I don't know. Something bizarre about that. I mean, I don't know. It is cool in certain ways. Somebody from Connecticut or Iowa can be commenting on your post, right?
Well, okay. The interesting thing is, we're about 76 followers, I think, right now on TikTok. Is that accurate?
I don't know how many we have on TikTok.
So regardless, like we're not much, right? We're 75 followers, and I think the interesting thing is like, who are we? Like we're a few college students, and we're just doing something that we enjoy, and 75 people are enjoying what we're doing, and I think that's a cool aspect. Like we don't actually have to know these people, but they can actually enjoy our presence and our information and what we have to say to the world, and that's the cool thing to me, that we don't have to know these people and they still take an interest in us.
Also, I don't know how the algorithm works, but you don't have to be a big account to get a lot of views. It's really easy to get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 views. That's also like I don't know. I guess
I
the
mean, your
algorithm.
content has to be there, right? The content's like,
Yeah, but I don't. It's really easy to get views on TikTok though, as compared to like platforms like YouTube or elsewhere. You know, I'm saying like a
For
TikTok.
sure. Oh, dude, because like you're just scrolling, right? Rather than a 5 minute
And
video, you're just
exactly, yeah. It's just a time frame. Most
Yeah.
videos, like you said, are short, and like YouTube, you have 30-minute videos, 20-minute videos. Here, you just scroll 10 seconds to watch it. That's one view, right?
So do you think YouTube is gonna just become another TikTok platform with short videos? I mean, I think TikTok. I don't know.
I mean, it's already kind of happening. Like a lot of YouTube videos are shorter now. I mean, one of the
Yeah,
great, like most popular vloggers, David Dobrik, he has 4-minute vlogs, right? Like, I mean, yeah.
that's sad because I feel like short videos. Like, what are people actually watching? Like, people are
well,
just
it's
watching them on
inducing
TikTok.
our instant gratification. That's all it is, and it is sad. I agree with you. I think there should be some substance to what we're watching, but people want instant gratification.
Instant like 5 second gratification. Move on and get another
That's
video
literally what
there.
it is, right? I mean, that's how the news is going. We have,
Yeah,
dude, come on. Like you go on, I mean, at least for Apple, you have your Apple News and like 5 little like excerpts will come up, but they're not even excerpts. They're just literally liners of, fire in Monrovia. And that's it. And people, oh, and you go to work, oh, there's a fire in Monrovia. Well, what part of Monrovia? Or what was the cause? Oh, I don't know. I just saw the fire in Monrovia, and this is like a constant thing that's going to continue to increase because of technology.
yeah. I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours about like the moral repercussions of this. But all right, good note to end the podcast on. Enjoy the conversation, and we'll be back again next week. See you guys.
Thank you guys.